The pronoun game that people are playing, the gender ideology, the inserting biological males into women's spaces, that's coming from the top down. That's coming from places like BlackRock and Vanguard, and those are these international corporations that hold 55-75 trillion dollars in wealth, that actually run everything, including our politicians. And they want to do that for two reasons. One, as they're raping the planet and making it unaffordable for regular people to live and own houses, they get to wrap themselves in a patina of virtue by saying, look, we have women of color and we have trans women raping the planet, and doesn't that make us good people? And the second thing is, it keeps people fighting over bathrooms and fighting over stupid ideology and dividing the country. And so they need people divided. When people came together over Occupy Wall Street, and the Tea Party at the same time was just as upset at Wall Street as Occupy Wall Street, the establishment, the people at BlackRock, Vanguard, the people who run our government and run our politicians, they saw that was a problem, and so they had to figure out ways to keep us divided, which is why they started inserting the white supremacy terms and calling everybody racist. That's been studied. I'm not making that up. You saw that in the Washington Post, the New York Times. They started calling everybody white supremacist and racist as a way to divide the country, and they started doing stuff like this to divide the country. So I don't think that's coming from a necessarily progressive left. Of course, what's considered the left today, I don't consider them left. They're pro-war authoritarians, and but they do stuff like this. And so let me play this for you and get your reaction. And maybe this is also a reason why the military is having a hard time with their recruiting goals.
All too often, I hear leaders talk about providing everyone with dignity and respect like it's an aspirational goal. That's not good enough. Dignity and respect is the bare minimum. It's the floor of where we can be. We must set our sights higher and focus on intentional inclusivity, because there are still far too many people out there, not just LGBTQ individuals, that feel marginalized, shut out, or discriminated against. So for all of you out there, I ask you to set out your symbols of pride, share your pronouns in your email, particularly if you're a person who doesn't think they need to. Initiate difficult conversations about racial and gender barriers, and share a bit of your vulnerability in a way that draws others in. You all have the power to take intentionally inclusive actions to ensure the multiple perspectives that we know make us stronger as we devise winning warfighting strategies get heard.
Now, I'll show you one more thing. So that was that's a Lieutenant Colonel Bree Fram. And here, I don't know who this person's name is, but let me play it for you.
So inclusion is a national security imperative. We fight today, and we are going to fight in the future using brain power. And if that brain, who's going to revolutionize the way we fight in space, we fight in cyber, just happens to be in a trans body, you should want them all serving alongside me.
So I got no problem with anybody who wants to serve our country. But I do have a problem with them turning the military into an LGBTQ organization. And first of all, I know many gay people who don't agree with this agenda. And I was wondering, as a general, what is your take on stuff like this, and what does the rank and file military think about stuff like this?
Why is it happening?
Well, so I think it's all part of the divide and conquer strategy. So they roll these folks out to and give them platforms to further drive this wedge in between people and get people hating each other, quite frankly. You don't win wars by saying these kinds of things. You win wars by getting out and training in the Mojave Desert until you puke, and you redo it, and you redo it, and you redo it, and you figure it out. You're getting yelled at. You're yelling at people. You get people in the foxhole. You have simulated casualties. You got to carry them back. And I don't care who you like to sleep with. I don't care. If somebody raises their right hand and wants to serve the country, awesome. Everybody counts or nobody counts. And so as long as you're mentally and physically fit, then that's fine. This in your face piece is really disturbing, and it is a contributory factor to the recruiting challenges we have, and that cause and effect is obvious for everyone to see, and there's probably a few other factors in there, but this is a piece of that puzzle. But because it breaks the narrative, because to address it or to mention it, just like it breaks the narrative to hold anybody accountable for Afghanistan or Lloyd Austin, who I know very well. When I was deputy commanding general, he was commanding general. Hold him accountable for not telling the president he was going to be gone for a week or two. When I was the undersecretary, I had to sign. I was leaving for 2 weeks to go on an official trip to Africa and a couple other places, Middle East. I had to sign a piece of paper appointing my deputy as the acting undersecretary. There are systems in place, and it was signed by the office administrator, and she took it and gave it to the secretary's people. So there are systems in place for all of that, but nobody's held accountable, and so you have a really a big giant wedge being driven down in the military, and it's impacting readiness first and foremost. As a former paratrooper, a former commander, former a brigadier general, I get upset when I see this, because I've lost men and women in combat, and I would always think, what could I have done differently? And it's certainly the hell isn't using proper pronouns. It's one more day training might have saved that person's life. And troops are unbelievably resilient, and they don't really care. At the end of the day, there might be some barracks humor going on, all that, whatever. But in the foxhole, when you're getting shot at, as long as the person next to you can shoot straight, that's all you really care about. And that person's going to have your back and you're going to have their back. Because study after study after study has shown that you fight for the person in the foxhole, not for a flag or a piece of paper. You're out there trying to survive.
Go ahead, Kurt. You had a question?
Are you familiar with that Ghost in the Machine commercial that came out a couple years ago for the fourth PSYOP unit? It was real creepy, and it was. I think that's what, especially when she's talking about the brain inside is whatever. There's a lot of recruitment going on of let's call it neuroatypical people to do PSYOPs. We know it's legal for them to do it to Americans ever since 2011. Is that what this is part of? That Ghost in the? Are you familiar? You saw that commercial? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it. What I would say is that the line between the posse comitatus line, where you're not allowed to conduct military operations domestically with the armed forces, I think that line has gotten thinner and thinner and thinner, and with the corruption and weaponization of all the institutions, it would be naive to think that the U.S. military has not also been similarly weaponized.
Okay, well, I wish we had more time. You're welcome back anytime. General Anthony Tata, or do you say Tata? He has got this new book, which is going into its second printing. It's gotten amazing reviews. The Phalanx Cold. Everybody check that out. Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We're going to be in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, London, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Edmonton, Alberta, Vancouver, British Columbia, and Denver, Colorado. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets.